Chapter 71, Pre Paralympics, 2011 to 2012. There is just over a year to go, and I am very worried. What will happen if I am not good enough and I come back from London with nothing? What will happen if I get disqualified in my backstroke? Wow, there are a lot of fears, but I needed to stay positive. I occasionally see a young lady who is pregnant in the Springfield swimming pool in Corsham who is expecting her baby on my birthday. I find this very positive. I feel I have to stay positive for her and for the baby, as it will share my birthday, so we are therefore somehow bonded. The mother has always been very strong for me, so I will hopefully swim well for them too. I still have a few things to do this year. European Championships in Berlin and a couple of smaller competitions, so hopefully I will swim well, and these will give me the confidence to swim well in London in 2012. One of the worst symptoms I have with MS is toilet issues or control. Every day is a worry. I make sure I go to the toilet before leaving the house and make sure that I know where the next toilet break will be. This issue had been a problem for all those years since it first started with the onset of MS in 1999. On one of our yearly review trips to Manchester, which is now the headquarters for the Great Britain Paralympic team, all of the Paralympians had to go to 4 meetings. One of the meetings was a review with the National Performance Director and the head coach as well as your own coach. This was always a bit scary because it was like parents' evening at school, where you are not sure what they are going to say about you. Another meeting was with a team doctor who took our blood to send for a full blood count to check our ferritin, iron and vitamin D levels. We also have meetings with the team physiotherapist to make sure we are happy with our routines and with our S&C workouts. Our last meeting was with the nutritionist who took our weight and then gave us a skin fold test to measure the amount of excess fat you carry on top of your muscles. As one of my physio meetings, I burst out crying when I was telling the physio how much trouble I was having controlling my toilet facilities. When I needed to go, I would run desperately to the toilet, knowing what would happen if I didn't get there on time. Paul, the physiotherapist at this time, had seen me mention this before, and the tears were the wake-up call that something was really wrong. Paul spoke to the National Performance Director, who agreed that British Swimming could pay for me to go and see a gynaecologist to see if they could help. I went to this meeting and was checked over with a gynaecologist, who informed me that I didn't need to do any more lower bridge exercises because I was as strong as an ox. Cheeky, I thought. He then fixed me with cables which recorded the movement of everything to see if I emptied my bladder fully. The test showed on a computer that my bladder and bowels were having spasms every few seconds, and these spasms were what was making me think I needed to go to the toilet again and again. This was the best news he could have ever given me. I can control or combat spasms. After this meeting, I made a note of how much I was drinking, and every time I had a spasm, I sat down, relaxed, and told myself this is just a spasm and I don't need the toilet. When I thought that a spasm was a correct time to need the toilet, I went calmly. I had to monitor how much was in my bladder, and I had to physically think about going to the toilet and then relaxing my spasms. 13 years of toilet issues finally all calmed down, and I can safely say now that I don't have any issues with bladder or bowel control. Again, I use the power of my mind and some monitoring of my body. One thing that most coaches do for their athletes is to write a program where they do all the hard work and hard training, but then taper just before a competition. A taper refers to the practice of reducing exercise in the days before an important competition. Tapering is customary in many endurance sports such as the marathon, athletics, and swimming. For many athletes, a significant period of tapering is essential for their optimal performance. The tapering period frequently lasts as long as a week, but can vary according to the sport and the athlete. Generally, people should have just 2 tapers a year, so these tapers must be thought about and organised perfectly. For London 2012, I had to taper once before the Paralympic trials, and once again before the Paralympic Games to optimise my times once to qualify for London, and then to swim well in London. Starting the taper on the week beginning 30th of the 1st, 2012, I started increasing speed but decreasing the distance covered per week, starting from approximately 50,000 per week swimming and reducing this down to 35,000. Recovery is very important because if you can recover faster, you will be ready for the next training session or race. I normally swim 5 individual races per meet, which means 5 heats and generally 5 finals. I need to make sure my recovery is perfect, so I'm ready for each race. I also have to make sure I recover enough to help my MS, which will definitely tell me when it is too tired, so I monitor everything I eat and drink to make sure I don't get too exhausted. Endurance exercise and high-intensity training places a huge physiological stress on the body, which causes the breakdown of muscle proteins and reduced post-exercise glycogen, carbohydrate levels. Recovery after exercise is essential to stimulate protein synthesis and repair damaged muscle. Using a recovery product helps replace energy and electrolyte sources used up and helps muscles adapt to training and enhance future performance. I normally use milk as my recovery drink, and because I don't like the taste of milk, I add the Nesquik strawberry ingredient to produce a lovely strawberry milkshake. Your recovery should start within the 30 minutes after exercise, because this is when the body is particularly receptive to protein, carbohydrate, and fluid intake. As consuming food at this time isn't always practical, this milkshake is perfect to help me optimize recovery. One of the team GBR staff members often takes a drop of blood from our ear to measure our lactate levels, which tells us if we have swum down or recovered enough after a race. A lactic acid test is a blood test that measures the level of lactic acid made in the body. Most of it is made by the muscle tissue and red blood cells. When the oxygen level in the body is normal, carbohydrate breaks down into water and carbon dioxide. When the oxygen level is low, carbohydrate breaks down for energy and makes lactic acid. Lactic acid levels get higher during strenuous exercise, and this lowers the level of blood and oxygen throughout the body, which is why we get this measured. My scores are normally just over 10 after a race, but often drop to the optimal under 2 quite quickly. As a swimmer, I always swim down, which means do a number of lengths, which includes some short, sharp bursts of speed to move the lactate around the body, and some slower, easy swimming. My usual swim down would be approximately 1,200 meters. Another thing I like to do, although it can prove to be very expensive, is to go and speak to a psychologist. Psychologists are easy to talk to, and they make you feel more confident about your race and about how you're going to prepare for the race. I find psychologists so important as part of my races, and before London I had to make sure I was ready for everything. By the time the London 2012 Paralympic Games came, I was definitely ready for anything, but I didn't realise quite how supportive Great Britain were going to be for us. The crowd, the papers, the radio, my family, all the feelings about the Paralympics were incredible. Thank you for all of your support. I couldn't have asked for anything more.